I'm sorry. If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Well, that's the
you wouldn't have done that. You wouldn't have. You
No,
wouldn't
and
have done that before.
That's not an immediate.
No, you wouldn't have done that before.
That's not who I am. That's not what I believe.
It is the reality the left has created.
But unfortunately, that is the reality of what happens when it comes to DEI. And what he is remarking on is true. I would be terrified if I got onto a plane and I saw a woman flying the plane.
Again, I didn't say anything controversial. It really isn't, because what I was saying was completely true. However, it wasn't the whole point I was making. If you listen carefully, the point I was making is that DEI creates unwholesome thoughts. Yeah. Not that I like those thoughts.
We're seeing the impact of disgusting bigotry-laced conspiracy theories like this in real time.
We're not upping our game as far as increasing the level of expertise and especially, Eric, meritocracy. So we're not hiring necessarily the best people. We used to say we're going to hire the best people regardless of their color of their skin, their sexual orientation. Now we're saying, well, we may hire the best people, but more importantly, is their ideology or their ethnicity or their gender or their sexual orientation. When you have a foreign company doing this with a foreign crew, and we don't know what our people were doing, but you're just risking the chances that something's going to go wrong.
Let's be 100% clear. This is pure, unadulterated racism in plain sight. It's just framed in a more polite way. Sentiment remains the same. This Newsmax segment is full of coded, disgusting language that assumes diversity equals less than. The false narrative assumes that white people are by default the best and the brightest, and not because they've been gifted more opportunity and access. Now, this is a birthright thing. For the lie to live, Americans in the majority have to largely believe that people born into marginalized communities are just not as good as white folks, and thus they should stay in their place and get just scraps of the pie. Even more, Black and brown folks cannot be trusted with basic responsibilities. Anything bad that happens, it's our fault. It's by design. It's how we're made. An articulate, marginalized person is a unicorn. Okay? On the other side, well, excuses are accepted. Now, if you thought the Newsmax rant was hard to listen to, this is what's being said on America's most popular news network.
Kids were taught the story of the boy who cried wolf. I'm sure you were taught it. And we're supposed to take away the lesson that lying is a mistake, because the time will come when you need people to believe that you're telling them the truth. Turns out many of our leaders never learned this lesson. And now, no matter what they say, no how credible they may want to seem, huge portions of the country won't believe them.
For someone like Laura Ingraham, whose literal job is to sow even more distrust and chaos between the public and the government, to posture as the real truth teller here is a sight to behold, especially given how she framed this tragedy just minutes later.
To your point, the problem here is this is the consequence, this sort of distrust of terrible leadership. When you have an administration that has weaponized the Department of Justice, tried to throw in political opponents in jail, tried to throw them off the ballot, conducted a vast censorship enterprise to silence Americans who don't buy into their narrative, whether it was on efficacy of masks or transmissibility of COVID after you've had the vaccine, or the Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, time and time again, Laura, these folks have viewed half the country as the enemy, and they're willing to try to silence them under any means necessary. And we're right to be distrustful of this administration because of their past actions.
What the hell is Eric Schmidt talking about? Every box he just ticked off from his false far-right messaging has absolutely nothing to do with the actual evidence we have so far related to the deadly Baltimore Bridge collapse. But, none of those facts matter to Fox. The congressman fits the brand, which of course motivates that network to bring someone like him on.
But of course, you've been talking a lot about the potential for wrongdoing or potential for foul play given the wide open border. That is why you have been so adamant. Why has the Republicans had such a hard time securing this border? The president says he's not going to take his executive action. You know that. I'm wondering if this is going to stoke inflation again. Because let's face it, it's expensive to be transporting all of these goods. And we saw what happened in the Red Sea when the ships were getting attacked. Is this another element to watch in terms of the potential for inflation stoking again?
The companies that chartered and operated this cargo ship are foreign. It flew under a Singapore flag and was commissioned by a Danish company. And if they're at fault, they owe us a new bridge. Biden wants to rebuild it with our tax dollars. Made up stories, misdirection, and blame games, but don't fall for it. We have to get to the bottom of this. A cargo ship hasn't taken out a bridge in decades. And a ship, as far as we can tell, has never sustained a power failure before a bridge knocked down. We need answers. And someone has to pay.
Stay scared, America. That's what they want you to do. Right-wing conspiracy theories have that one common denominator. Just think about it. It's woven into the border debate, terrorism, so-called wokeism, and yes, the fallen Francis Scott Key Bridge. Paranoia and fear of anyone who isn't their definition of white America must be policed and, of course, degraded without limits. Just know that while some folks are busy being scared, consumed with it, the same rich conspiracy theory designers are picking what's left of your pockets. It is the ultimate distraction.